How are you? This is Freddie Salem of the Outlaws, and you're listening to the business side of music.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Can we get serious now?
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
It's been a busy week here at 2024 Music Biz Conference in Nashville, Tennessee. It's always exciting every year, and this year is no exception to the rule. Last but not least, I want to say you guys are actually our last ones we're interviewing, but that doesn't mean that it'll be the last one to air, so you have to stay tuned. Darshan Kaler and Shaun Verreault. Darshan is the founder and CEO of the fan engagement technology company, Tradable Bits, based in one of my favorite cities that I've been to, which is Vancouver, Canada, I'm sorry. And then Shaun is the business development individual, I guess, is your title for Tradable Bits, along with, get this, folks, being the lead vocalist and guitar player for the blues-based rock band Wide Mouth Mason. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question: how did you two get together? I mean, it's almost two very diverse backgrounds here. Let's start with you.
Sure. So Tradable Bits started in 2010, so many years ago.
It's been around a while.
It's been a while, yeah. And, never raised any money. So for a technology company, it's unusual. And
but we are talking about the music business.
That's true.
Yeah.
Everybody starts with nothing.
Yeah.
And really, the platform that we kind of built out was really tied to helping understand fans in the music and sports and entertainment industry. Years later, eventually, as we grew and were able to afford to hire people, Shaun joined the team, and we wanted to bring in somebody who is truly in the music industry and lived it, both from an artist point of view and distribution and understanding the entire ecosystem. And that's how we kind of met, and he joined the team.
Let's talk about the company Tradable Bits. And it's easy for me to read the notes and see that it says it's a fan engagement technology company. Exactly what does that mean?
Yeah, I can go over that. Tradable Bits as a fan engagement platform, it's more about understanding the fan in today's world. So if you take a look at going back many years, you might go to see a concert and no one really knows, the artist doesn't know who the person is that comes into a particular concert. You might have 10,000 people in the stadium and, no one really knew, printing out tickets and people coming in to see the show. In today's world, everything is digitized. So we all have our own digital footprint associated with the world that we live in today. Music is no different. It's transposed into streaming, and consumption of that content has, been in many different mediums. But the consumer is still the same, the fan. And the fact that we have an ability today to understand who the fan is, who's engaging with an audio or a movie or a live entertainment experience, there's a new medium for us to try to understand that individual through interactions. And so the engagement platform in main purpose is to understand how are you buying, your buying behavior, what do you do when you go to the event. So if you go to a music festival, what happens? How do you schedule your time? And at the end of the day, all of that is a digital footprint to give you signals to personalize at scale. So imagine if you go to a butcher every day and the butcher knows exactly what cut of meat you have, he knows your name and everything else, and you feel really good to come back. and buy products directly there because they know you. Well, today, you're trying to do that in an international way, global way, and there are thousands of people. But how do you get into a scenario where you feel like you're welcome and the person you're interacting with truly understand and taking a lot of these signals to automate your communication with that particular fan?
Some of it sounds like it's obviously data consumption, which you're gathering there, but I'm assuming it's a bigger picture than that?
Correct. Yeah. So data is one aspect of the collection piece, but it's the information that gathered around that. So, and in my world, what I understand is information is insights, and you're trying to do that at scale. So if we're dealing with, we talked about, you promoted music before, and certainly even as a promoter doing a show, you're not only just entertaining fans and giving them the wow effect of being experiencing something entirely new, but you're trying to take that data and making sense out of it so that it kind of comes back to the fan in a unique way without being, let's call it, creepy. If all of a sudden you feel like, oh, how did this this interaction
you mean
become
kind of like when you get on your phone and Amazon's got what you've already been talking about?
Well, that's exactly it,
Yeah.
right? And so that's, in some cases, makes you kind of go, okay, what's going on here? However, if you do it in a fashion, this is more of a surprise and delight. Let's say you go to an event, you go to a venue on a regular basis, and then you randomly get moved down to, closer to the stage, because all of a sudden they're appreciating you. Now, there's a lot of data points to kind of drive that interaction to get to the point where you're selected. But that's the type of stuff that we want to try to do, is that surprise and delight, not necessarily getting too creepy about trying to, make it more personal in that nature.
Shaun, you from the artistic perspective, how does that help the artist in gathering information? I would assume you start learning your demographics of who your fan base is?
Yeah, I think as you were recounting your path that led you here, I could empathize. It feels like we've been in 3 or 4 different music businesses in my time. So right as you were getting out of one part of it, in about 1997, we put our first record out. And back then there were record company reps in every city, and there were weekly magazines, and there were fanzines and street teams. And then as we went on the road and started touring, we found that, this is how we're really building our audience. Night by night, audience by audience, show by show, city by city. So we got fortunate that the first time I ever came to Nashville, we were opening for Kenny Wayne Shepherd and went on the road with him for a long time. And then as time went on, we were playing in bigger and bigger shows, either opening for other people or headlining on our own. Most of our radio and record success has been up in Canada. But last time I was in Nashville, we were opening for AC/DC on the Stiff Upper Lip tour. So I've been privy to seeing on a large scale what that's like. And I know from my own experience, every time we would play Montreal or Toronto, I'd be like, there's those 10 people who come every time we play here. I don't know how to reach those 10 people, but what I see now at 30 years into my career as a recording and performing musician is we just released a record in September and did a tour across Canada in November and December, and people were coming up to us as we hung out at the merch booth to see everyone after, going, this is my wife we met at your show. This is my son Mason, who's a guitar player and started playing because of your band Wide Mouth Mason. It was like our fans, our connection to our audience is our career. That's why we're able to still do it. And part of the, Music Biz 2.0 was, great, we're going to have an email sign-up list to the merch booth, and then we'll be able to reach these people. And then after that, felt like not long after was, great, we don't have to worry about that because these different social media platforms will be the medium through which we connect with these people. Which we then realized, like all other artists, wait a second, these are being held ransom from us, and we are not able to reach them. Or if, say, a billionaire that they don't like buys this platform and they all defect from it, how are we going to reach those 10 people in Toronto if we don't know who they are and we don't own that relationship with them?
You're just literally renting space.
Correct. Yeah. So I think it's, there are buzzwords and things that come up where everyone's talking about this or everyone's talking about the D word of data. But what to me that really is understanding. How do we understand who's coming to see us and what other experiences they would be open to? What other mediums through which or types of performances would they be open to? Why can't we ask them directly what would speak to them and provide that experience to them as we get deeper in our career and have more of a direct relationship with them that goes back many, many decades in some cases?
And what we're really talking about, the nuts and the bolts, is the super fan. Taking the casual fan and turning them into that super fan and being able to retain that information. And like you said, when we post something on social media, and we see this a lot on one of them out there, I'm not going to name names, but if they don't like what you post, it goes away. And doesn't matter who made comments or whatever, we don't control those dynamics. So we have to obtain that data some other way.
Yeah, that's correct. And direct-to-consumer is really, it's here to stay. It's the future. It's the only way that any business, whether it be music or artists and labels, you name it, you have to own it. And data is not just name and email, right? In today's world, to find a superfan is in many forms, right? You might have superfans that never buy anything, but they are high listeners. They may never come to a show, but they talk about it. We learn about music or artists through friends, right? And so at the end of the day, you might have a superfan that's not necessarily generating you income, but man, they're introducing you to everybody, right? How do you find who those are, right? And so, and then for the monetary piece, it's leveraging what you consider a return on that interaction. So from a fan's perspective, the appreciation and acknowledgement comes a long way. And then you get more super fans out of that, right? And it's very difficult to do, especially if you're going from city to city and doing a ton of shows, and you can't remember everybody. And so you have to use technology in today's world to provide that opportunity to surprise and delight. And I think that's the name of the game today. Direct to consumer, surprise and delight, get to know your fans better, and not necessarily just identify a super fan as a financial transaction, but identifying who the actual ones that are actually promoting you without any form of revenue that you're generating from that individual.
And a lot of our partners are actually music festivals or tour promoters. So you can't sell a place out just with super fans. So you need to go wider than that. Start with the super fans, and they would be, as we used to call it, your street team. But how do you find everyone who's, as Darshan said, friends of those super fans? How can they help spread the word? But how can you blast out beyond that into, look, marketing is expensive. So we want to start with people who've raised their hands and said, not only do I live here and you have my information, you want to speak differently to a super fan than you would speak to someone who's never been to your festival before. And part of the reason I joined Tradable Bits was because after the pandemic, when live music was opening up, live music has been the source of almost every great thing that's happened in my life, most of the great relationships in my life. And every time you open Meta right now or Instagram, you're seeing another festival. We're going to have to postpone this year because 50% of the festivals I was booked to play last summer got postponed or canceled due to extreme weather. Then on top of that, insurance cost is so high and everything, flights, barricades, staging has gone up exponentially. So there are enough variables that they have to contend with that nobody can do anything about. What we exist to help them do on that side, beyond just identifying the super fans, is how do you find the other fans, the casual fans and the new fans, to help sell out that festival, to sell out that concert and give them a fighting chance to stay alive.
We're going to take a break, get a word in for a couple of our sponsors, and when we come back, we're going to have some more conversation with Darshan and Shaun.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Branding. What is it really? It goes by many names. Marketing, licensing, and image. When in reality, it's 7 key branding formulas that all need to harmonize perfectly. Mess up just one formula and you have compromised the whole brand build. Dead Horse Branding facilitates all 7 formulas under one roof, building, promoting, and marketing all brands at all different stages of their level. We are a marketing team's dream, and we were built to service talent, artist managers, record labels, independent artists, iconic brands, legacy estates, and startups. Rooted in music and seated across other industries like fashion, various talent, hospitality, authors, interior designers, lifestyle brands, and corporate entities. The 7 branding formulas do not discriminate. 7 branding formulas, all in one swift movement. Sick of beating that dead horse? Come to Dead Horse. Please visit us at deadhorsebranding.com or send us an email to info@deadhorsebranding.com.
As a musician, you have a dream, that vision of what success looks like for you. Though it's not only about the money, money is a part of it. Whether you've been extremely successful or just striving to maintain a regular cash flow, you need a plan. Money Concepts can help you develop a customized plan to achieve the financial stability and success you want. For over 40 years, Money Concepts has been providing holistic financial planning services to individuals, families, and business owners. As an independent firm, Money Concepts and their associates are committed to always represent the best interest of the client. It's really about independence coupled with committed benevolent interest, which means that they can represent your client, not a product supplier. It's not about selling products. It's about helping you achieve success. To learn how this can benefit you, contact John Adams at 737-867-9309. That's 737-867-9309 for more information.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Back in the studio here in Nashville, Tennessee, Music Biz 2024. On the show today, Business Side of Music, Darshan Kaler and Shaun Verreault. Going through the show notes that were sent to me, I loved one of the examples that you incorporated. And you said you have a guitar tech out on the road. Why you also need a data tech. Because this is obviously a burgeoning end of the industry, and a lot of people don't necessarily understand it. I say this a lot on my show. People, my listeners, get used to this. I'm an analog guy in a digital world, and that data tech, that person is worth their weight in gold, I would think.
Mm-hmm, absolutely, and the reality is when we're talking about data or information, it comes in many shapes and forms. Right, so it's not necessarily just transactional, and having a data tech to help you plan your tour, your direction, the communication, pre-show, post-show, all of that type of stuff really matters today. And all we're trying to do is automate a lot of that function so that it becomes easier from a human intervention and understanding of what the data is all about. And when you're dealing with that, it's unfortunate today. I see it in the music industry quite a bit. There's a lot of, let's call it widgets, these little things, and some of them are free and some of them are really inexpensive to use, but it's everywhere. And then all of a sudden you've got an app to download for this, and you got some other thing you're scanning for this, and then you're paying on some other tool entirely, and they're all over the place. And then you go to the next one, and you go to the next one. And at the end of the day, all this data points, if you hire somebody, they're chasing it. They're trying to bring it all in, and to the point where in some cases they're like, that's too hard to get, so I'm going to forget about that. And what we're trying to do is trying to automate a lot of the systems that you would normally need to understand those interactions. Because at the end of the day, it's all about the fan anyways, right? And you want to understand what's happening for every show. So when we take a look at the data technologies that we've kind of rolled out, and really it's been 14 years building, it's become very sophisticated, very complicated, but then we're trying to make an interface to make it easy. So it's challenging, and also, trying to be you don't have to be a data scientist, I believe, in today's world, if you have the right tools in play. right? You don't have to go and build all these different things and do the hard work.
Because many of us aren't data scientists.
No, but the form of a data scientist is asking the right questions, and that comes from every part of the business. So they already know what to ask. They already, like how many fans have come here 3 times over that spent $300, and someone might just identify that as a question. You don't need a data scientist to really query that. But if you don't have the right tool, you will need a data scientist to kind of figure out, okay, where am I going to get all that information so I can kind of give you that to you? So our goal, ultimate goal, is really, this is a dashboard for you, just like you would normally have a sound audio board and you're controlling it. That should be something that you should have with you at all times. And if we are successful completing a lot of that, it should be part of your daily thing that you open up every day.
My next question would be, is this something where you get the promoter and or the venue involved?
So this is a political question, because at the end of the day, the venue, in some venues, let's say, for example, we deal with international companies as well. You go in certain regions that the venue might be publicly owned. So you might go to a space that that you're not going to get data because it's kind of generally governed in some...
It's owned by a municipality or something along
or
those
something
lines.
like that. Yeah. So it creates a different complexity. And then in some cases, it might be owned by an individual. And if it's privately owned, the fan data that they have, they believe that that's theirs. It's not necessarily for the artist, but the only reason why fans are coming there is because of the artist. So there's always a contention associated with data sharing. And especially in today's world, is far more important to protect the fan, really, and so that they don't get overexposed. And so our tech is trying to find a way so that we can work with the ticketing platform associated with the vendor and the promoter, and hopefully down the line also down to the artist, so that we can make sure that the data sharing is intact and information is traversing from a controlled environment, like let's say a ticketing platform, and no one's downloading it, emailing it to somebody. It's happening in a secure path, and then leveraging that so that it becomes more of an improvement on the fan to enjoy that event, and then empowering the right parties involved to make that happen. So it's very complicated from a legal and, let's say, political perspective. The technology is certainly existing today, but those challenges exist not only in the U.S. but everywhere around the world.
Is the pushback getting a little easier? People starting to understand a little more what you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to obtain?
Absolutely. At the end of the day,
does it help them?
It helps break down the barriers a little bit because of the stringent requirements to control how the data flows, right? So if we take a look at, throw some acronyms here, like, GDPR and things like that, these are, mechanisms in the public world to try to make sure that your data doesn't get overexposed and overshared, even if you didn't know that it's being shared, right? And so that's important. And as you go into dealing with the old way of marketing, I want to go back to that and then what it is today. So the old way of marketing has always been taking a look at a broader statement and saying, okay, here's 1 million people that I'm going to try to reach, and then I'm going to narrow it down and figure out who the right people are that's going to buy my ticket or who the fans are. In today's world, it's the opposite, because the amount of data that we have gives us a better choosing mechanism to expand out. What I mean by that is, like, you are trying to find the right seed audience, like the best ability to understand they like your music, they live in a particular location, and they have a friends network that's important. But now you own that. So the technology that we've kind of rolled out is breaking those barriers down so that it makes it a lot easier to see all the connections. And that in itself help all the other parties get involved. So ticketing platforms, they want to sell more tickets, right? The artist certainly wants to go and sell out. The venue wants it to sell out. Everybody has the same goal at hand. And so then they're willing to play together a little bit better.
I would think also that this would help the artist really determine what their A markets are. versus, those secondary or tertiaries. Well, let's just go there to fill in a date. I think you're a lot better off when you know where you're going to have hits.
Trying to mitigate uncertainty is such an important part of what we're doing. And for a lot of artists, like you said, there's that, most artists don't get ticketing data. They might learn they know how many tickets were sold, but not to whom. And an important distinction to make is, people in our platform it's consent centric. So they've opted into, the artist is running a contest or doing a survey or, hey, what should we encore with? Vote on that. And the fan is going, I'll tell you who I am, and I will give you the information of what I want in this contest. So they've opted into this part of the process, and then it's so vital for the artist, exactly like you said, to understand, look, we're playing an anchor date in Memphis on Friday. How are we going to get there on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? Where does it make sense for us to not only, where are our fans, but how can we supplement what the venue may or may not do to promote that show by reaching out to our fans, getting them excited about it, getting them to reward the super fans and go, we're going to show up early for all of you who've been with us since 1997 when we put that first record out. We're going to throw a sound check party and we want you to come hang out. We're going to play a new song we've never played live before and delight you because as thanks for that relationship.
You're turning it more into a personalized experience.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think we all want that when we want to go see our favorite artist.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, absolutely. There's one example I remember. I can't name the artist or anything like that, but the intention was they wanted to know their path for where they're going to do their tour. So they announced they're going to do the tour. They're identifying certain locations already. And then they did a nice little fun giveaway. It's a combination with a sponsor and so on. It's like, we'll fly you to our first show, right? The chance, and the next day hang out with the artist and we'll go shoe shopping, right? It's an experience. It's just unreal, right? There's no price for that. So they opened it up to the entire U.S. only, right? And what it got them is a better understanding where their fans are that are so excited to be part of this thing, even though they're doing a show in, I think it was Dallas as the first one that they launched into. And they had a nice viewpoint of all the different fans in different regions. And in some cases, there was actually even a smaller town that they were like, I can't believe we have that many fans over there, and decided to do a show there, right? And I think that let's call it informational discovery is so critical in today's world to create those moments to generate those super fans, because they might have been fans and then you just transformed them into something entirely new.
I think one of the things, and Shaun, you briefly touched on it, is we're now in a day and a time where it's almost cost prohibitive to tour. The cost of trucking, the cost of production, as you said, the liability insurance, cost of venues are going up on and on and on. And so when you can really fine tune that to your fans and not only make it a more enjoyable experience, but a more profitable experience for everybody, it's a win-win.
Yep. Absolutely. And it goes towards marketing as well. When you're dealing in the olden days, digital marketing was always like, hey, let's reach 1 million people and eventually, X percentage of them will buy, right? That was the model. Today's world is like, why are you going to spend to reach 1 million people only to annoy them because they're not interested in you? Why don't we find the right people, right? Because we only have to fill 2,000 seats or maybe 10,000 seats or whatever it is. Like, why are we trying to boil the ocean? And so at the end of the day, if you use data or the information in a wise way, you can significantly reduce the cost of marketing. And that evolution is transforming quite heavily today, more and more so. And leveraging that data in that particular way it improves the fan experience totally, like you said, and definitely the advertising piece, which is a really costly way to try to reach audiences today. And that transformation is everything from SMS communications directly to fans. And this is another one that I thought was very interesting. In the past, email. And the very first time we started doing SMS, like getting mobile numbers, was several years ago. And I was like, I don't know if anybody's going to put their mobile number, right? Maybe I'm aging myself here, but at the end of the day, we had high propensity for people to put their mobile numbers because they believed in the artist and they wanted to have an easier way to communicate with them and be notified when tickets were going to drop or something new is happening. And so that type of transition in how we communicate within the audience base set is really critical. And that reduces overall costs in the grand scheme of things. So if you can send an SMS message to 5,000 people that's going to be in the town and you have to fill 1,000 seats, you'll be sold out.
You've almost reversed the street team methodology.
Yeah.
That's good.
There's nothing worse than walking around a town going for breakfast the day after a show and having people come up going, hey, are you guys playing in town tonight?
Ooh.
Wow, we played last night, And I think artists have warmed to the idea of, you'll see like Billy Strings is on the road and Jesse Fats is taking pictures at every show and really amplifying what happened in those four walls to the greater community of here's our set list, here's what we played, here are some of the highlights visually of what happened. But I've talked to artist managers who are like, yeah, we asked our audience a question and I stayed up for 4 hours going through all the comment section going, there was a yes, tally a no, tally a yes, tally a yes. And a lot of what we're trying to do is to automate some of those processes so someone could enter that as a campaign and all those answers could flow in as yeses and nos automatically. So that's where I think the upside of machine learning, or call it AI, could be where things that used to take you a long time to do can be really shortened because there's only so many hours when you're on the road, when you're sitting in the bus to you're tired, you wake up, oh man, I have to do admin basically. It's like doing homework. What if we could automate that stuff and make it so you don't have to manually do it every time? And Instagram will tell me how many Instagram followers I have, but I don't know how many of those are fans. So what kinds of things can we do to move that relationship from there, keep it there because it's an important one to have and spreading and amplifying the word, but how can I grab from there an understanding of who those people are and which ones, to Darshan's point, come to shows, buy merch, buy tickets, comment on stuff, and what are their names? How can I understand who those people are? So if we can do something where, all right, let's send them, hey, reply this word, DM us this word, and we'll shoot you information about when we're going to be in your town next. I don't think fans, when they know it's directly to an artist, and an important distinction to make is when we work with artists, that data belongs to them forever. Even after they stop working with Tradable Bits, they take that data and we throw a match on it. So it's not like, as long as you work with us, you're helping us grow this database that we're going to use for other people. It's, these are your fans forever. We're just helping you. Like Darshan said, I love the analogy of a front of house console. Imagine if you had to mix the drums on a console over here and the bass was on a console over here. It would be a lot of running around and a lot of wasted energy rather than just working it all from one dashboard.
We actually used to do that back in the day. We're going to take another break, get another word in for a couple more of our sponsors, and when we come back, we're going to have some more conversation with Darshan and Shaun.
You're listening to the business side of music.
This is Mark Allen Barnett, singer, songwriter, creative coach, and mentor. Are you an artist or songwriter, or a family member or friend of someone who is? Are you trying to find your way through the often confusing world of today's music business? I'm here to help. Over the past 40 years, I've written and recorded hit songs, have had more than my share of live performances, and have seen the ups and downs of the music industry and what Music City, also known as Nashville, has to offer. I'm here to share that information with you. The Mark Allen Barnett Songwriting Tours of Nashville are a one-day to multi-day private interactive workshops developed to help you discover your best approach to songwriting, performing in front of a live audience, along with the correct way to network within the music industry. Our workshops are based around what you need to know. While in Nashville, you get an insight from behind the scenes, learn about the history of Music City, separate fact from fiction, and give yourself or a loved one the time of your life. This workshop makes the perfect gift for someone you love who wants to get their foot in the door of the music business the right way. For more information, go to www.markallenbarnett.com or www.musicchoosesyou.com. Remember, you don't choose music. Music chooses you.
Are you a fan of 80s and 90s country? Then check out Throwback Country Music, a weekly nationwide show hosted by me, Britt Jones. I have exclusive interviews with legends and icons that include Grammy Award winners and Grand Ole Opry stars. You can listen to the show wherever you get your podcast or watch it on our YouTube channel or our Facebook page. For more info and access to these options, visit our website at throwbackcountrymusic.com. That's throwbackcountrymusic.com.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Back in the studio here in Nashville, Tennessee, Darshan Kaler and Shaun Verreault are sitting in the studio. I go back to the days, and I said the whole analog digital world. Back in those days, we did a lot of what we call dartboard touring. I don't know if you ever did that or not.
Certainly have.
Where, you know, the booking agent, if you were lucky enough to have one, you felt like they threw darts at a map and, you know, oh, okay, I've got you in Cleveland today and I've got you in Dallas tomorrow. Well, how are we supposed to do that? You'll make it work. This really helps simplify that because it fills in those blanks, say, from Cleveland to Dallas. But I think there's also a bigger picture here, and correct me if I'm wrong. This also ties in really well with the sports world, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. How does that work?
Well, let's take a look. So when we take a look at sports is it's an interesting one because if you're a Titans fan, for example, and you move away from Nashville and you go somewhere else, entire city differently, you're still a Titans fan, right? You are kind of connected with that group. The other thing that's different with sports is that typically the games, there's multiple games that happen within a season, and they happen in a particular venue. And so people come back over and over again. The opportunity of understanding the fans and growing that is very, very much similar to music, except in this case, it's very regionalized, right? That's changing also. So if we're dealing with, let's say basketball is a good example. When we're dealing with Raptors or, Trailblazers or Spurs, those fans are now becoming international, and at which point you might have a ton of fans that are coming into Manila that watches the basketball game. They'll never come to a venue game because it's just not possible.
Right.
But they still are true fans. And then how do you engage them? And it becomes a very, far-reaching opportunity. But they are definitely there, and so some of these particular technologies are being rolled out either to watching clips, understanding, getting connected, almost like part of the community, even though you're not in the same country or not in the same city, and that distribution in sports is happening today quite a bit in highlights and like moments in time and so on. And so those things are being packaged as an opportunity to understand the fans on who's consuming them globally. In the music world, we kind of see it, you're streaming music from Spotify or let's say Amazon or Apple, and you don't really know them because they're coming through a network, so it's a bit different. In the sporting world, they're kind of controlling the content and they're pushing them in the particular medium, so they have a better understanding who the fan bases are. And all we're trying to do is kind of break that mold so that, even though you're consuming the content in a different medium entirely that you don't own, we're trying to find a way to connect them. So in the festival world, just going back into that, if you come in and there's 150 artists, so we rolled out a what we call personalized playlist, and that taps into Spotify as an example. So you connect your Spotify auth, so to speak, and we take a look at the lineup and we take a look at your music listening behavior, and we kind of mash them up together, and we say, oh, here's 5 artists we know you're going to love. Here's some ones that you should try to listen to. These are outliers. I think you might like these as well. And so in the end, it's leveraging these other networks that might have access to information, and then leveraging of what you know, and then combining those two and making it happen. And then the distribution of that comes back onto Spotify. So you save your personalized playlist on Spotify. Then it's public, so you can kind of share it with friends. And that virality of that conversation when you interact is really important. And so the medium that we're trying to get to is the fan itself, the content that they want to consume, and then making it accessible to be shareable, right? And all of those things is part of overall strategy when you're dealing with digital. And sports, they do it really, really, really well because they own the entire content and the entire, even stadiums and so on, right?
Once again, what you're really just doing is completing that experience.
Correct.
Yeah. How can people find out information about Tradable Bits?
Well, TradableBits.com. So go
That's
down.
pretty simple.
It's pretty simple. The website's there. And chances are you might interact with Tradable Bits and you don't even know it. So, we have clients like Titans as a client. We have Live Nation as a client. And we have many different...
Country Music Association.
Country Music Association as a client. So here in Nashville. And so,
And I'm assuming Wide Mouth Mason.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's not forget to give them a plug.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, and so it's a technology that's kind of in the back to help you run your business better, right? And so these large enterprise companies, sporting teams and leagues end up using our technology so that they can improve the way they can interact with fans. And we're trying to get it so that it is accessible to the mid or early starting artists. It's a big challenge because obviously to have such a pretty sophisticated system, it becomes a daunting task in some cases. So there's a lot of education that we're trying to do. So definitely TradableBits.com is a good way to reach us. Social, definitely. LinkedIn, we do a lot of posts. We do a lot of articles and things like that. That's a good way to do it. And more than happy to have one-on-one communications with anybody that's interested to learn more.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for being on the show. This was a wealth of information.
What a pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound design by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Busan.